Hey everyone, this is a functional tour of the Citizen Caliber 7400, which I have here before me. This is the world's first radio-controlled watch released in 1993. It's a very odd-looking thing, obviously. It's maybe the bracelet and the case back and everything is pretty normal, but right away you can see this giant tube here. That, if I tilt it to the side, you can see is a coil that serves as the antenna for the radio time signals it can receive from a number of towers across the world. So let's start simple here. On the right-hand side, you've got these giant 6s and 12s indicating the time, a second hand ticking like a quartz hand, a minute hand, an hour, and a 24-hour indication with that little arrow right there. That's not a GMT indication. That is actually just a 24-hour indication. So if you go over onto the left-hand side, it gets pretty interesting. We've got this like almost retrograde-looking calendar, and you'll see there's two hands here, one top up here, one down there. The top, even though it's on this calendar scale, it's maybe a little hard to see, but it says on over there, right there. It says on. That on indicates a number of different things, but currently in this mode, it indicates daylight savings time. So daylight savings time is on, and we can actually turn on or off the daylight savings time with a single button, which I'll show you in a bit. The fun part is if you want to read the calendar, you simply press and hold this button, and both hands will go over, and oh, actually, this is interesting. We are July 17th today, so it's pointing to July 17th, and they're all basically overlapped. The hands will move up and down individually, with the long hand pointing at the date and the short hand pointing at the month. And of course, if we were to turn off DST, which I can do with this button here, I simply press and hold, and the entire thing reverses. You can see this reversing 1 hour. This hand comes down. And now DST is off, and of course you would read the calendar in the same way. They both go up until they hit the right date, and then they stop. So if we turn DST back on here, we'll go back on to the right time. This dial down here in the lower left, this indicates 5 different time zones, L1, L2, Europe, UK, and Japan. Europe, UK, Japan, these three over here, they allow you to receive the time signals from those regions. Europe is one in Germany, UK is in London, and Japan, there is one in, actually I forgot the exact area, but it's about in the middle of Japan. L1 and L2 are individually settable hours, offsets. So once you've synced the time in any of these three regions, or even set it individually, you can then apply an hour offset to L1 or L2. So L1 is set to Pacific time for me right now. If I want to go to L2, which is set to EST, I simply have to push this thing. This is a crown actually, but it doesn't actually set the time. You just press it once, it goes to L2, and you can see the time changing 3 hours in advance. Now, interestingly, in this watch anyway, there is no independent hour hands. You can't jump the hours. So no matter when you want to adjust the time, you have to advance the minutes over and over and over again until you get to the right hour setting. So of course, this is L2. I can go to Europe, UK, Japan, all pretty interesting. And if I go to 0, this 0 is what Citizen calls a zero confirmation mode. So this zeros all of the hands, and then you can make adjustments to them. So you can, for example, I can pull out the crown here, which then pretty much moves both those hands up and then move both those hands down until they're at a 0 position, so you're at the right position. I'm actually going to adjust this slightly up because there's a little bit of a bug in this watch where it works a little bit better when you're up. Same thing, you can adjust the hours and minutes here, which I won't do right now. So you push that back in, and you've got 0 hour, and you go back to L1, and it will advance to whatever time zone I've set for L1, which currently is Pacific. So that is all fun. There's a lot of actually different functions here that I'm not even showing. Outside of zero confirmation, if I go to Europe time, once this finishes, I'm able to do a time signal receive, which is of course how you sync it to the actual correct time. In normal usage, if you were in one of these zones, they would sync, I think, something like 2 to 4 a.m. On odd days and 1 to 3 a.m. in even days. There's a bit of an offset, which you can read about in the article accompanying this video. But what you would normally do is, of course, press, not of course, but you just press this button and you hold it until it's in receiving mode. Now, you can't do it, of course, until the hand's finished. So let's just finish doing that. And meanwhile, I'm going to bring up my app that actually does the syncing. So if I'm not in Japan, which I'm not, or Europe or UK, then you can't really receive these signals. You're too far away. What you can do instead is get out your smartphone, and there are these apps. This one is called, what is this called? This is what one is called Wave Turbo? No, it's called Wave Sync or something like that. And you can choose one of these regions. So DCF77 is the radio signal that this watch understands in Europe. Happens to be in Germany. So what this app can do is start playing. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me do this correctly. It can start playing a sound, which I'll bring this over to the microphone so you can hear it. So what the sound is essentially the correct radio waves played out by the speakers. And because the speakers is essentially electromagnetic inductor, when you play the right sounds, it will generate the right magnetic fields. And what you can do then is, are we on the right mode here? Yeah, we're on the right mode here. So you press and hold this button. You see the second 0 and both hands goes up. That means it's in receiving mode. And then you just simply put the watch right next, as close as possible to your speakers. And after about, I don't know, I want to say 2 to 5 minutes, it will fully sync. Now, this is, if you're ever trying to do this yourself, you got to turn off all your lights and make sure you're not playing any sounds because it's very, very sensitive. The phone is not a particularly powerful emitter of these electromagnetic waves, and the watch is not a particularly powerful receiver either, despite that giant tube in the middle. So over time, if it works, you'll see the time synced, and if it doesn't work, it'll just go back to the time that you have before. So I'll just cancel this. So it goes back down. And I'll also stop my little app here. So those are essentially the main functions of the watch. Of course, you wouldn't have to do anything normally wearing this. Let me get back to my Pacific time here and have it spin around. It's always fun to see. What's also interesting to show here is that because it's a quartz movement, there's not a lot of interesting things you see in the back, but there is some interesting things to see about the crystal and the movement and the dial actually itself. So you can see from here that the crystal has a pretty interesting shape. It's flat on these two sides and raised on these two to accommodate the tube. You don't get all that much distortion normally. You do get some fun refractive effects if you get the light just right, like right around here. You can pretend that you're looking to a tesseract or something. And so it's pretty, it's a pretty wild, arguably ugly design, but very, very, very interesting. And there's this plastic sort of half bezel, half top case here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate pushers. So as you already saw, this one pulls up the date, this one does DST, this one does zero confirmation mode, and these two it does different things depending on the mode. But for example, this one sets it in radio receiving mode, and this one gives you a confirmation display of whether the last receive was successful. So all kinds of fun digital functions. But let us do something real daring here. Let's just twist off the case back. Once you twist off the case back, you'll see it's it's what you'd expect it would look like. The first time I worked on this watch, I actually broke the crown stem, so I want to do this very, very, very carefully. You do the standard push here, and once you do the push, you can just take out the crown stem, which is fine. And then how the rest of this case works is these pushers essentially act as they don't lock the case in, but because they're pushers, they interfere with the seating of the case. So usually what you do is you just try to do your best to pull the pushers out just slightly like this. All right, they're mostly out. You have to trust me. And then you kind of just drop the movement out. Now, this doesn't always work very well because it's very difficult to not push the pushers back in while you're trying to handle the watch. So let me try to pull them out a little bit. Did that work? No. All right, let's try the other side. Maybe the other side is easier. Here's on the right side. Push that out. Pull that out. And will that drop out? Oh. Surprisingly hard sometimes, huh? Okay, that should do it. No? I'm having to put a technical difficulty sign up here while I get the movement out and then be able to show you. All right, did I get it? Did I get it? Yes, I did. All right, so there goes the case. We'll leave the case right over there. Actually, even before I show you the movement, so the crystal is pretty interesting from the upside. Once we take off, you can see underneath just how the tube is basically a coated, painted gold. Now, normally this is not painted gold. It's actually clear for a lot of other styles. They had a stainless steel style and a two-tone style. It's only fully painted gold for this gold because, I don't know, I think it's insane and fun to see. So you see that there's a little divot, right, basically, all for this thing, right? And that is the big antenna. And with the technology of the time, of course, they couldn't really do anything any better. So I really like that they leaned into this and put the antenna straight on the dial, and everything else be damned, right? Everything else can adapt. This is an expensive watch. It was probably not all that popular when it was released, but boy, do I respect Citizen for just going for it and making this kind of crazy thing. So I'm not brave enough. I have taken apart parts of this, but I'm not really brave enough to take apart more parts. There's something like 400 or 500. No, maybe not that many. Maybe 300 parts. There's actually quite a few, surprisingly many in here for the course movement. Now, once you're here, of course, you can adjust the hands or whatnot if you want. The only difficult thing is if you ever take out the battery, everything resets, and you have to press 4 pushers all at the same time, which is pretty much impossible to do. Because, I mean, you'd need 4 pushers and you don't really have that many hands and you can't really stabilize it. But if you just need to do things like, check the calendar and check the hands or whatnot, a very easy way to do is just get a tiny little screwdriver, and you can, of course, push these pushers and actuate it as if they were normal, and then, everything will work. And you see, actually, one of the problems of this watch is that sometimes it has a habit of having this shorthand sort of dropping down here, which you can fix by going into zero confirmation mode, but it just happens sometimes for whatever reason. I think that's about all I can say about this crazy little watch. I quite love the thing. It's completely bonkers. It's I don't know. It's very, very advanced technology when they did it. Arguably, for if you're just talking about sales or ability or willingness of consumers to buy it, the desire probably wasn't all that high to do something like this. But economics and other things be damned. Citizen was really rightfully proud of getting this technology working in a wristwatch, and they really wanted to show the world, and they did. And 20, 30 years later, here I am loving this weird little thing that they concocted in 1993, which, of course, by the way, is completely obsoleted by all modern wristwatches, but that doesn't reduce the romanticism of this piece. So that is the Citizen Caliber 7400. Hope you've enjoyed seeing in detail how this strange little watch works.